Hello, everybody. If you can see me and hear me, go ahead and hit the like button. Come on, go live. Isn't it going live? Okay, so you can see me. This is still a new thing for me. I apologize for feeling fumbling a little bit. Hi, everybody. Okay, so you can see me. Oh, I gotta turn the sound off here. This is still. There we go. So we had a little mishap today. The Facebook app stopped working with the video app, and it took an hour and a half to figure it out. So it kind of took an hour and a half away from my fun getting ready. And so if I seem a little bit stressed, that's why. I wanted to show you more things, but it just wasn't meant to be in this particular episode. And so I'll just have to do another one. Hi, Pam. Hi, Marilyn. So today we have a new twist on our live viewing in that I'm giving away $100 worth of product relating to Free-Motion Embroidery and Quilting. And that would not include the Octi-Hoops, but the stabilizers and different elements that we're going to use for machine embroidery, monogramming, applique, and quilting. Some threads as well. So nice little pack of goodies for you to move forward. And the way to win this is to like. And as many times as you hit like the smiley faces or the thumbs up, and share it with people. And I know I want you to still enjoy the experience of watching this, but the person who shares the most, clicks the most in the combined amount of, in other words, combined with all of the different things that you can do to interact with the video. After we're all done, we'll count it all up and see who wins, and then contact you and send you out your goodie bag full of wonderful products. Hi, Vanessa, everybody. We have the honor of having the Crafty Gemini on with us today. I'm hoping that this will get her going and using her Octi-Hoop kit. So hi, Vanessa. If you haven't seen her channel, you need to check it out, Crafty Gemini. She's awesome. So what I'm showing you today are the Octi-Hoop kits, doing Free-Motion embroidery, monogramming, applique, and quilting. These are things that most people don't feel like they'll ever really be good at. If any of you done free motion before and didn't feel like you would ever be good at it, go ahead and hit the wow face, and then you guys can share with one another your experiences in the chat. And know that you're not alone. I had like 70 teachers around at a wholesale show, and I asked how many of you are good at free motion, and how many do you think raised their hand? Only 3. So the odds are pretty good that you're not alone in this, and it's not because you're not good at it, but because there hasn't been a really good way of doing free motion and how our brain works and how our hands work. And I'm going to prove to you that you can do this today. It says it's a lot easier than driving a car. So how many of you drive cars? Are you a driver? Do you get on the road? And you have that road you're sharing with other people, and they have cars, and there may be rain and snow, and that even makes it more complicated. When you drive your vehicle, you're using both hands, and you have a blinker that you have to use. You have speed limits that you must follow. You have a lot of rules of the road, and then the unexpected person cuts you off, but you still manage to not crash. And isn't that 1,000 times harder than doing free motion? Absolutely. And yet, more people think I can drive, but I can't do free motion. So we're going to figure it out, and I'm going to explain why it's been so difficult and why our Octi-Hoops make it super easy. One of the things that you do when doing free motion is you're taught to put your hands down on the fabric, spread apart, push down, and move side to side. And doodling is not something everybody's good at it. How many of you can just draw a flower? If you can't draw a flower, we've got a solution for you on that as well. But if you've ever been told to practice doing free motion by writing on a piece of paper, and I would have been more prepared had my app not worked, so we're going to work with my folder here. So you would just say you want to draw a flower, you would just draw a flower. And then they say, now go ahead and do that same thing on the quilt, but take the pen and put it down. And now take your hands, spread them apart, and put your hands down and push down against the hard surface of the sewing machine. And the fabric, the poor fabric, has no option but to stretch because it has bias worked into it, memory built into it. It stretches out and comes back to its original shape, which is very important so your fabric doesn't tear when you sit on your quilt. I can't wait till you get one too, Pam. And hi, Joyce. There's so many of you popping up. It's hard for me to keep up and know that I will look at the messages later and answer any questions that you have. But I know that Vanessa's always busy, so I'm going to move quickly so that I can convince her to pull hers out and start using it. For children, you can use the Octi-Hoops for machine embroidery as young as 3 years old. And that's because at the age of 3, they usually know when they're using a coloring book. I've got an invisible thread stuck to me. That when they're coloring within the lines of a coloring book, that once they're done with the yellow area, then they switch to the green crayon. If they're not ready to stop and change to the next color, they're not ready to do the embroidery on with the Octi-Hoops. And I don't know if I forgot what I was going to say. So here's a crayon-like instrument, and these holes on the Octi-Hoops allow you to drop the crayon in, and they stay in, so you don't have to use muscles to hold that handle into the hole on the frame. And you get 2 in the kit. Whoops. So when children use these, they're able to color with both fingers, both hands on the crayons. It's a great thing to do with grandkids or children that you're trying to get into the sewing. And another really important thing about it is you don't lift your elbows up. You're able to put your hands down and actually rest your hand on the table next to it, and you just color. Another really neat thing about the Octi-Hoops is that they're designed for a stabilizer to adhere to it. This is our stick and tear stabilizer, and it is a polyester material, not paper, so it doesn't get your needle hot and cause adhesive to transfer onto it. And our hoops are designed for the sticker to stick to it and come off, and it's clean. There's no sticky residue remaining on the back of the frame. You're able to stretch it until it's completely taut, and once you know that there's no wrinkles within the perimeter of the frame, and you can kind of hear it sound like a drum, you're ready to apply your fabric, simply laying it down on top of the hoop. This eliminates the need for a presser foot. I know I'm the inventor of creative feet, saying no foot sounds kind of weird. However, if you don't have a foot pushing against the material, you have no chance of puckering your fabric. So you can take a little bib like this and just lay the bib down onto the material just like that, and it will hold the bib onto the frame for you so that you don't have to actually stretch it in between 2 rings. Welcome, Joyce, Patty, and Carolyn. Hi. So now how do we make it easier for you to actually color a design? You can print on our stick and rinse stabilizer, and it is one of the things you're going to get in the giveaway if you're the winner. This is the stick and rinse stabilizer. It is a water-soluble, non-stretch, adhesive-backed, tear-away, rinse-away stabilizer. Isn't that a mouthful? And it's the one with the dolphin on the label. You'll notice that all of our stabilizers have animals on it, so you know if there's no animal on the label, it's probably not our brand. It's probably someone just trying to look like they have our product. So if you're looking at your computer screen, like you are right now, if there was something right here, you wouldn't know exactly where on a piece of paper that element, like my nose. You wouldn't know where my nose was going to print out on the paper. So if you wanted to embroider my nose, you would need to first print on the paper my face, and then you can take a piece of our stick and rinse and put it over it, and then put it back in your printer the same way that you put it in before, and it will print out a sticker. Aren't these beautiful? These are butterflies I just found online, so you have full access to anything that you find online. If you're an artist and you paint like I do, I painted a painting of an eagle. And then I took a picture of it, and then I printed it out on my stick and rinse. And the stick and rinse has a release liner that you peel off. And then that is sticky. So you don't have to worry about it staying down as the needle exits. And it also is a non-stretch water soluble. And that's really important because it locks the bias in the fabric and won't let it stretch. Hi, Pam. We're working as fast as we can to bring new products in, and we will have a line of embroidery thread added as soon as we humanly possibly can do it. So after you put the sticker, you remove the release liner, you then apply the sticker to your fabric, just like you wanted to stick it to the bib, and then you pick out the color thread that matches, and you, let's see if I can remember how I do this. This is how I do it. And then you color through the sticker like this. And this is all done with a straight stitch. So you can see that. I don't know how well you can see this. This is thread stitched on, and I did so using the largest of the 3 Octi-Hoops that you get in the kit. Hi, Lynn. I can't wait to get back to Denver. So as I embroidered this, the stabilizer that was behind the eagle becomes swallowed up so that you can't even tell it's in there. And you can see that the stick and rinse stabilizer, the one that I color through, is still present on here. Now, if I want, I can take this after I've removed it from the hoop and put a whole nother sheet of stick and tear on it. And stick and tear is our stabilizer with the tree frog on the label, which is also part of the giveaway today. So the stick and tear will allow you then to put another piece on there, and then you just lay the bottom part of that embroidery and I can finish it. So what that means is that there's no limit to the size of the embroidery that you can do. You can do an embroidery the size of a wall. That would be a little bit hard to handle. But say the fabric covers the entire hoop, and now you can't access the hole to put your crayon in. Then you just take and place a smaller frame on top and inside, and you're going to utilize the hole on the top frame, and then one hand holds the 2 frames together and the other hand colors. This is how we also quilt with this without any stabilizer behind the quilt. Try not to confuse you here. If you're a beginner and you don't want to wait for printing on our stabilizer or don't want to buy it at all, you just want to doodle, you can take fabrics like Lorelai's Cats, which I absolutely enjoy using, that shows, and just take that and lay it down. And this is a really good beginner practice and also good for kids. And I'm going to start by showing you this and move the camera off of me and onto the fun stuff. they have this new thing where they add this comment box over your comments, so I don't get to see all your comments as easy. Hi Cindy from Andover, Kansas. It's been a long time since I've been to Kansas. Oh, let me show you. Oh, my dog has moved to the pile of stuff I was going to show you. So for those of you who haven't met Tink, this is Tinkerbell, and she's going to go back on her bed. You may have seen the commercial that we created for the Octi-Hoops where I show you flounder. And this is actually a display that we put at our show. So I printed flounder on a piece of paper, then I printed it on our stick and then I applied it to the fabric and I sewed through it. Can you tell that that was done free motion? Now, yes, I've been doing it for a while, but just like you drive your car better now than you did when you were learning, anything that you want bad enough, you can achieve as long as you believe it. Now, say you don't want to waste ink, you can print out, you can type in Google coloring book images, and they'll give you images that are blank of colors, so you're not wasting ink. So you can see how I got Minnie Mouse. This means it's fully legal for you to go to any website, print out any image from anywhere. That's NFL teams, basketball teams, anything that you want. Yes, you can do that as long as you don't try to sell the hat that you embroider on. And at creativefeet.com, I do have images for you to earn money from if you are an Etsy person or you like to make money from your sewing. This is an embroidered hat, which if you go to my YouTube channel and also inside the Facebook group, you can learn how to embroider on baseball caps and see the full-length video on how I did this. No limit to what you can embroider on. You can embroider on scatter images across. This apron was one of the classes I taught, where I taught 105 students how to do machine embroidery. And we really thought the second day would be all on quilting, but in about 15 minutes, they were all bored and they're like, yeah, we got the quilting, that's easy. So if you listen to me, which not all my students do, I recommend that you do one embroidery before you try quilting with the Octi-Hoops. If you do, you'll get the hang of putting your hand down on the table as you move your fingers. If you've ever done free motion quilting before, you've always had your arms up, so now you have to learn how to rest while you quilt. Isn't that a fun thing to do? Now I'm going to show you another cheater or beginner way of quilting is to take fabric. This is one of my lessons on YouTube, and it's you'll learn how to do the complete bag, but before we make the bag, I show you how to quilt the fabric. So this is a free motion quilted bag that is, I think it's called the travel bag inside of my YouTube channel, but it's also a link in the Facebook group or Facebook page. Those of you who like adult coloring book pages, you can use your adult coloring book page and embroider that. There's no limit to what you can do. You can even embroider directly on wedding veils. And this is, I'm going to actually show you how I did this one. So you can see how the width of the wedding veil of the embroidery was consistent. And this is just doodling little flowers over and over and over again. Very, very easy, but a stunning addition to a wedding veil that you can make a lot of money selling wedding veils like this on Etsy if you're interested in that. My son's always, why are you always telling them how to make money from their sewing? And because that's how I started. When I was in junior high, I made a skirt design and I sold them to all the other girls. Later on, I did other things, and now look at me. All right, this is another way of doing quilting, is to take a design. And this is a design in my Facebook group. You can print this out and then you can quilt this design. And I did this by tracing using the friction pen. And the friction pen is an erasable pen that also, if you iron it, just disappears. And then if it gets cold, it comes back. And then if you wash it, it never comes back. But you can trace the design onto your single layer of fabric first. And then after it's traced, then you put your batting and your back together. And you'll notice that this is not basted. Nothing is holding these fabrics together, because with the Octi-Hoops and the fact that you don't use a foot, there's no puckers. There's no reason to start in the middle and push your way out, unless you're working on a design that starts in the middle and you want to work your way out because you don't want to have to stop and tie knots, and that is something that you can do with this. Start in the middle, work your way all the way out, and never have to tie a knot. Another thing you can do is take fabric, like I made this quilt, and then I quilted over the pattern. And if you've ever done free motion, you know that it would be very difficult to follow around the small swirls that you see on this. And I used metallic to add a little accent to it. In order to do this without the Octi-Hoops, you would have to tighten up your body. You'd have to like tighten up your body, bring your hands together and move ever so slightly, adding tension to your whole body. This is why most people don't do good pebbles. Pebbles are just zeros, just the letter O or a zero. You've been writing them your whole life. You can do it. You're already trained. Okay, now for the sewing machine. And feel free to ask questions. Hi, Liz. For those of you who are coming on, know that we're having a giveaway. Whoever likes, shares, and comments the most will be counting up afterward, and you're going to receive a $100 pack of goodies for machine embroidery and quilting. So I'm going to move the camera now. Try not to make you dizzy. Know that there's a delay on the camera, so I can't see yet what you see. Position myself. You're always supposed to be centered with your sewing machine needle. Here's my little toucan. So if you like to draw and you could draw something like that, you can also draw right over that using the Octi-Hoops, just like I'm going to draw over Lorelei's cat. And I'm going to do so by first, step 1, remove the foot. I like to match my bobbin thread to the color of the fabric. So if the fabric is black, a dark bobbin is better. If your fabric's white, you want to use a white bobbin. Or to kind of match it to the thread color. I got clear thread on from the other filming. I'm also using my thread dispenser, which stops a lot of the skipping, looping, shredding, breaking thread that you might experience. And this is lingerie thread that I'm using in the bobbin here from what I did before, and this time I'm using Invisafill. And Invisafill is part of the giveaway. You get a lot more thread on a bobbin of it, and it's really thin. So one bobbin is all you need for maybe even a queen size quilt. Okay, here we go. Choose a color based on the color that you see on your fabric. And I'm going to take this. This is my satin edge foot, removing that. This sewing machine has a snap-on adapter, this thing here. And what you want to do if you have a machine with a snap-on adapter is you do want to remove the snap-on adapter. And this is the silly screwdriver they give you. Loosen and remove it completely. And then we're going to match the color thread to the fabric if you want. It's easier for your brain if you do that, especially when you're learning. Match as best you can. So if you can't shade, you'll be matching your thread to the color that you see, and when you see the color change to a lighter color, you'll change to a lighter color thread. And these aren't exact matches, but time is fleeting. On the eagle, I did not shade the fabric, or I did not shade with the thread. So if any of you are thinking I can't do embroidery because I can't shade, know that when you see the colors on the feathers on its head, that this is just lavender thread over lavender, white over white, light brown over light brown. And likewise here, light yellow, medium yellow, dark, and then a little bit darker. And that is the only reason it looks shaded. I still have not gotten my machine service, so I don't have my needle threader working. Put my glasses on. I'm glad you like the hints, Lynn. There we go. It's amazing I can read the computer from as far away as it is. Okay. Now I have my stretch 7511 needle on there. It is a needle that I really like for free motion techniques, as you have less chance of your machine skipping stitches when you use it. Straight stitch is the instruction, and then lower the presser foot bar, even though there is no presser foot to actually lower. This is a bunch of fuzz from batting on here. I hope you can't see it. And we just take and lay one of these into the hole. Somebody commented on another area. Hold on one sec while I close this box. There. Okay, I think we got a good camera angle here, and the light's good. You can see well because I've done the embroidery and quilting before, and you couldn't even see because the light was too bright. Then you go ahead and you bring your bobbin thread up if your sewing machine requires it. So the Baby Luck has such a small, every time I go to use my tweezers that a customer begged me to sell her, I regret selling them to her. There we go. So having your little tweezers handy are helpful. If you're waiting on the thread or the supplies from Spain from our last live airing, know that we're just waiting for them to come. I just move over and snip. And then just as you put your hand on a piece of paper and you draw with your fingers only, you're going to do that. This hand kind of holds the frame but not pushing down. If you find that the hoop starts to drag or jerk, then you know that you're pushing down against the hoop. So make sure you don't push down. Is anybody there laughing, going, "Oh, good. Claire had problems with her thread." That shows people get really excited when I have a mistake. Hi, Connie. Connie Thack is just joined us. You can't stay long. She actually taught a whole class with children, and they had to have adults push on the pedal because they were so little. So if you're wondering about children, know that Connie's in here right now, and if you ask her a question before she runs off, and she has a school that she's up in Washington State, right? So you should put a link to your school in the conversation, in the comments, Connie. So if I move my hand slowly and the machine is running slow, then we get small stitches. If I run the machine slow and I move my hand out, a big movement, then I get big stitches. If I move my machine faster and run my hand faster, I'm getting smaller stitches and it looks more like an embroidery machine. If you move your hand in different directions, like scribbling, you'll end up with a messy looking stitch. Just like when you color in a coloring book, you want to keep your stitch direction to make it look like you're forming the shape of a belly. So handle back in the hole again. And I also find that I do a better job if I'm moving the hoop up and down, because you can see that you're filling in the whole area. And since I'm looking through my camera at you, at it, it's a little bit more challenging. So it's really very relaxing, and you can go very fast when you get good at it. I don't know if Vanessa's still on here, but see, Vanessa, it's so much fun. And back over here, because we got some light color here. I'm not going to make you endure watching me do an entire embroidery. I'm going to kind of show you what I show people at shows to help you understand better what you can do with this. If your sewing machine does not have a blanket stitch, or if you've ever done a quilt and you have teeny tiny shapes and you're supposed to applique them on, did any of you ever buy one of those laser cut quilt patterns, like they do trees and landscapes, and they have all these skinny pieces, and then they say, now go ahead and sew. And you can't form a stitch on it, because if you did, you'll end up covering up the fabric. So you can use the Octi-Hoop and actually stitch right along the edge of your material. I know some of you are probably going, yeah, that's because you've been doing it for a long time, but could you trace around that design if you took your time and put your hand down and used a really good pen? Because that's what this feels like. Hi, Pat from Delaware. Welcome to the group. So you can, if you don't have a blanket stitch, or you want to blanket stitch one of those quilts, you can just draw the letter E over and over again. Don't you think you're already qualified? Yes, you are. If you've ever written an E, you are ready to start drawing that blanket stitch around that shape. Say you want to write something like so. But that's even too big. I want to write it even smaller. How small is that? I can compare it to something I barely ever use, a pin. You can see how tiny that is. I see you guys are working toward getting that $100 prize. I'm going to have a lot of counting to do. Okay, so see how tiny I was able to write so? Now you might be wondering, can I do that using a zigzag stitch? And yes, you can. So you just go ahead and using a zigzag stitch. Monogramming is simple, slow writing, because you are writing with the little handle in your hand. And if I used a narrower zigzag stitch, I could go even smaller on the zigzag monogram. I would recommend, though, that you write on your material first when you do zigzag, because you might go too far and not have the proper spacing in between each letter, and then end up not liking it. And I'm going to go back to a straight stitch and make this look more refined by going forward and back, and forward and back. Not using a forward and back stitch, but moving my hoop by moving my fingers and doing this outline stitch, which makes it look more like an embroidery machine did it. And if you use our fabric cover, which is part of the kit that you're going to get in the giveaway, the colored stabilizers that I used to monogram the towel last week, and if you haven't seen that, you want to make sure you watch that video on how to monogram over towels. And I'm trying to find the towel right now, because here we go. You can see that the towel is completely covered, and beneath the blue thread is blue stabilizer. And it comes in 16 different colors, and you're going to get all 16 colors in your kit. So if you haven't seen that video, it was a live video I filmed last week, or maybe a little bit longer than that. Okay, so now I'm going to do something really fun to show you something a little crazy, because I like crazy. What did I do with those scissors I just had? Does that sound familiar? Where are my glasses? They're on your head. Where are my scissors? They're not where I would normally put them. I need a sharp pointed one. Put them. Did they fall? Oh, they fell. The joys of working on live video. All right, here we go. This is something really fun that you can do. Got our fabric held onto the stabilizer, and this is the stick and tear stabilizer, and you can see it's nice and solid, and you can see how the stitch was filling in and covering up the stabilizer. And now I'm going to take these scissors and poke a hole through both the stabilizer and the fabric. This would be a lot easier to do off camera. Have any of you ever heard of white work? If you have, say something. You can do this same technique as white work using the Octi-Hoops and also do cut work. And what I'm about to show you, it's called Richelieu technique as well, and it's more fun when you have a thicker bobbin thread. You'd think I'd have tons of bobbins here, but I don't. And if you do neon threads, like orange in the bobbin and neon green in the top, it's really cool for Halloween. Okay, so this thread is thicker and it will create more body to the stitch. Oh, you're like going, oh, that's terrible. We can't see anything. Come on, camera, get in focus. Catch up with me. There's a delay, so I'm having trouble seeing. Oh, there we go. So now you can see we have a hole in the fabric, and the feed dogs have been feeding the entire time, by the way. See them coming up? If you have a sewing machine that does not have the ability to lower your feed dogs, you can still do this with your machine. And I did buy a featherweight recently. I used to have one a long time ago. I tell you, when I was pricing them, I was wishing I never got rid of it. But I need to service it, and once I get it serviced, I'm going to be showing you guys how you can use your featherweight also for things like this. So I go around, and if you do white work, it's white fabric and white thread, and that's why they call it that. So you can go back and forth and then cross over the opening. I probably should use some neon thread. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going back and forth, and I have a white, or I have a light lavender and a little bit darker lavender thread in there. And then after you go across a few times, you zigzag across, but doing so by just moving your hand in a zigzag motion. Hi, Pat. I'm so glad you found us too. And I know that we have a $100 giveaway to the person who likes, shares, comments, faces, thumbs up. We'll be counting afterward, and it might take me all day. So you can see how I'm stitching over the top. And now it looks like tatting by machine. I don't know if you can see that. So it looks like it's been crocheted. And you can keep building on that. And also mend blue jeans this way, and laces. And so I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit faster and show you how you can just keep joining. If you just do one row across, you have a lighter amount of thread. And I've been able to actually create floral designs with this. Changing your color, you block off a section and then you change your color, and you block off a section and change your color, and then you have a solid area of thread. And you can have a hole that is considerably large. So those of you who are thinking you probably would jam your sewing machine, it does not jam your sewing machine. This is something I have been teaching since before I ever invented the Octi-Hoops. So when I was a young girl in my early 20s and I was teaching free motion, I started teaching how to do this and go from one end to the other with nothing at all. So this is something that you can do whether or not you know it or not, and isn't that fun? All right, so now the next thing is I'm going to show you how we do the wedding veil. Where's that hoop? I had it already. There we go. So once again, this is our stick and tear stabilizer. It's the one with the tree frog, and it attaches to the back of our frame. And since the wedding veil design is fairly narrow, I'm going to use the smallest of the 3 Octi-Hoops and apply the stabilizer to it. And you can hear, you guys are, look at all the hearts. Aw, I love you guys. All right, where'd that wedding veil fabric go? You know what? My dog loves wedding veil fabric. She took it. There we go. I'm making her a dog bed, and then I'm going to teach you guys how I made it. Loretta, what did you learn? The sewing in a hole? Now a hole is exciting. You get a hole in something, you're going to go, ooh, I got a hole. I get to fix that. I'm going to have some fun. Our pearls and piping foot gathers up a wedding veil in a few seconds, by the way. And you can make tutus in seconds as well. Imagine making a tutu for a grandchild or a daughter and embroidering on the bridal illusion or wedding veil material before you do that. So what you do, and how I did that veil, was I cut a window in the stabilizer after you make it taut, and then whatever width you cut, is going to help you to know how far to sew. By the way, this can now be used as a patch to patch it with something else. So you would just put the paper back on it and save it for patching something later. So every time you cut to shape your Octi-Hoop, these are little patches. This is a patch material that you can use later. And it tears like paper, but it is not. It's polyester fabric. Tears in all directions as well. It does not have a limit on the stitch count. So you can just stitch, 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 stitch. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you haven't heard these terms before, it does not mean you won't hear them at some point. I don't know. Do any of you want a job? You want to count for me? Because there's so many going across. I'm going to need help counting. All right. So you just lay your wedding veil over the top, and it sticks to the adhesive on the outsides of the actual wedding veil. And then when you know it's taut, and I can see there's some wrinkles in it, so I'm going to stretch it a little bit more. It's really difficult to see it, so if you put something dark like my painted sewing machine underneath the wedding veil, you can see it better. All right. So much for trying to not get in the way of the camera. Now we have a window. And any kind of fabric. You can also use this for felting. So if you have a felting machine and you're tired of putting your fingers down and getting sore, you can make a window like this on our Octi-Hoop and use even the biggest of our Octi-Hoops and felt and felt and felt without injury to your hands. The octagon shape is what makes the Octi-Hoop not allow the fabric to pucker. So even though this is a single layer wedding veil, I gotta get that bobbin thread to tape. Come on, there we go. Then you just decide what design you're gonna doodle. And if you saw me on the It's So Easy show, I actually printed on the stick and rinse. I did so because they want you to show what everybody can do, and this is me doodling. So you see I'm going over these petals more than once so you can see better. I hope you can see it. And then I go ahead and I do a little loop, come back out, do another petal, another petal. Whoops. I didn't go the right way. Does anybody know? No one's going to know. They're going to just be impressed with the fact that all the way along the edge of the wedding veil is the same width. So as I progress across, and I can tell you that this is one of the most addictive things I've ever done, because you're filling in this space. And there's nobody knowing what your plan is, so nobody can tell you didn't do it right. All right, I'm going to kind of pretend I'm working my way around. Here we go. Now I filled in the entire area. Then you just take the veil and pick it up, and you don't cut your thread. And you'll notice I never lower my needle. And you just lift, and now you just slide the hoop and move all that stitching over to the stabilizer and create another area to stitch. And that's how I was able to go along that entire perimeter of that wedding veil. Took a couple hours though, so it's not the quickest technique, but it does leave quite an impact on a wedding veil. And in case you want, you can also write on wedding veils. And for those of you who don't sew and don't embroider, but like to quilt, I'm about to show you that. And I believe that we should stop separating ourselves. If you're a quilter, you're also a sewer. If you're a sewer, you're also a quilter, or could be if you want to. Isn't that neat? You guys like that? I can tell you it's fun. Okay, so now I'm going to show you quilting. And for those of you who don't know, when you remove the stabilizer from our frame, it leaves it completely clear. That's because these frames, they're the only ones engineered for the sticker to stick to it and come off of it. I get asked a lot, what determines the size of the frame that goes on the bottom? Maybe I'll look at you guys a little bit. Here we go. We'll talk a little bit about some quilts as well and how to get your quilt ready. So you guys are getting slow on your chatting, but you're not slow on your liking. Oh my goodness. All right. If you want to be able to quilt something like that, and you're not good enough to draw it, neither am I. I use the stick and rinse and I print it on it and then put it on it, and then I can just trace right over the stick and rinse. And at shows, people have been peeling off little sections. So I'll see if I can get this up close to you and you can see where some of these holes, the stabilizer has just been peeled off. And this is a wash away or rinse away stabilizer. It is the one that you can print the butterflies on as well, and any other thing that you want. So you get 3 different size frames in the kit. Oh, I can't believe how wrinkled that quilt was. It traveled. And by the way, you can also embroider right on t-shirts, little baby socks, hats, right on the edge of a tie. Anything you can do with an embroidery machine, you can do with the Octi-Hoops. So how do you determine which frame goes on the bottom? Because we're going to utilize 2 frames. We're going to put one underneath the quilt and the other one on top, making replacing the need for the foot. It will actually hold the quilt without stretching it out of shape. So what you do is you take your hand and you put your hand and try to see if your hand fills in the entire area of that frame. Then it is fine for you to use that one on top. Only about 10% of the population uses this one on top and this one on the bottom. That said, I have customers that never listen, and one or two of them use the small frame and the big one on the bottom, and they slide the hoop around and then they move to a new area. So it really has to do with how your brain works and what works for you. Just like not all of us drive our cars the same way. Some of us have to stay at the way we were taught, and some of us just hold the handle down here, and some are just one-handed, and some are too afraid to go